Welcome to Recovery with Patrick, my friends. I'm glad you're with us tonight. So, let's talk about elephants and the circus. Right? Probably thinking, what the hell does this have to do with recovery? So, I love this story. Um, so, two friends were at the circus, and they were out behind the tents, and that's where they kept the elephants, right? And they noticed something odd that the elephants were staked out with a rope and a stake in the ground. Now, even if these were Indian elephants, which were quite a bit smaller than, let's say, African elephants, we're looking at these elephants and, man, how is that stake holding them? They could just easily walk away. You and I could walk away from that, right? So they went up and asked one of the trainers. They said, how can you keep these enormous animals staked out with just a rope and a stake? And the trainer said, what we do when they're very young, we stake them out when they can't get away. And so they go through their lives believing that that stake is going to hold them, that they can't get away. So, how many of us have gone through life hanging on to a belief that we can't do something simply because we failed at it before, right? How many of us are being held back by old, outdated beliefs that no longer serve us, right? How many of us avoid trying something new because of a limiting belief? And worse, how many of us are being held back by somebody else's limiting beliefs, right? Don't choose to accept false boundaries, especially those imposed by others. Here's what I've learned over time. When you hear people say, you can't do that, you won't be successful, you won't be able to do that, they're not telling you what they can't, what you can't do. What they're doing is telling you what their fears are, right? So don't let somebody else's fears limit what you can do. And if we fail, we fail, right? The one thing I always ask folks, if you fall down, what'd you learn, right? You didn't fail, right? You tried something, it didn't work, all right? How do I do it now and make it work, right? What was something I missed that is going to make me successful, right? That is the first question I ask anybody I work with after a relapse. Let's get rid of the shame and guilt. The guilt in very, very, very tiny 1/64th of a teaspoon can be useful. Simply like, I'm not going to do that again, right? Shame, there's no use for shame, right? Guilt is I made a mistake. Shame is I am the mistake. Nobody's mistake, right? We make unfortunate choices sometimes. So the first thing I ask somebody is, what'd you learn, right? If we fall down and we've had a relapse, and you can step back and go, oh, okay, I shouldn't have been here, right? I should have planned better for this, or yeah, that was not a good choice, right? What are all those things? Those are all lessons, right? Those are all things you learned and you can grow from, right? Actually, if we can grow from a relapse, and don't get me wrong, right? I am not minimizing relapse, not even a little, right? Because every time we relapse, there's no guarantee that we're ever going to get back to where we are now. There's no guarantees, right? So every relapse is a serious thing. So if you want to be serious about it, what did you learn? What is the lesson I'm not going to repeat? What did I learn that is going to keep me out of trouble in the future? That's what we can do to avoid future relapse. I want to talk about that real quick. So I've heard counselors, I've heard judges, I've heard lawyers, I've heard them all say relapse is a part of recovery. You're probably wondering what I'm thinking about that, right? I'll tell you, bullshit. Bullshit. If you relapse, you're not in recovery. If you go 2 days and then you fall down again, you go 2 days again, 3 days again. I keep relapsing. You're not relapsing. You just never were sober, right? You never been in recovery. Now, this might seem like a hardline approach, but I'll tell you why I take this approach and why I see this. Relapse is not a part of recovery. Because when people say that, we normalize it, right? Like, it's not that big a deal. Like a lapse. A lapse is just a couple of days, right? I'll go out Friday night. It's payday. I'll go out Friday night and I'll get right by Monday, right? Has that ever worked out for anybody? I've lost some jobs on Monday, right? Maybe not right away, but eventually I start losing jobs on Monday. And eventually I can't show up to work not loaded on Monday. So I'm not making light of this, right? This is a serious thing. When I hear that phrase, relapse is a part of recovery, it's like fingernails on a chalkboard, because it is not a part of recovery. It is not. Now, does relapse happen? Absolutely. Can we recover from it? Absolutely. But we have to be careful because it is a serious, serious event, right? So let's talk a little bit about relapse and the progressive nature of this disease. I know I started talking about elephants, limiting beliefs. We're just going to segue right into relapse. So relapse, or our addiction, is a progressive disease, right? What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is I've been around for a while. I've been fortunate enough and blessed enough to have good people around me to get me through some really difficult times, and I've got a few decades under my belt. It's not important how long, right? Because I could say X amount of years, but I'm still the same distance from the ditch as a guy with 30 days, 40 days, 50 days, as I am with 41 years, right? I have to take care of myself. It's not work. I'm getting better. So let's get back to relapse. Sorry, I'm kind of drifting here a little bit. So it's a progressive disease. It continues to grow. So let's say for whatever reason, I want to go back out, which would be insane. Very quickly, we get back to the levels that we were at when we quit, right? We all know this. Those of us who've done this for a while, been through this, know this. It happens very fast. We get back to those levels again. I can tell you, if I started using at the levels I did when I was 24, and I'm a broke down old guy right now, I'm not going to last a month, right? And I love my life. I love life enough that that'll never happen. So what happens is, while I've been, let's say, working on emotional sobriety, I've been growing, I've been learning. My spirituality has increased. My compassion, gratitude, acceptance, humility, all of these things have improved, right? So I've been growing in a positive direction. My disease, and there's an old saying around the tables, right? While I'm in the meeting, my disease is out in the parking lot doing push-ups, right? So while I've been working on all this positive stuff, that big prick, and he is a big prick because that's who I am when I use, that big prick has been doing Olympic lifts. He's been on the hip sled. He has been doing 5-plate squats, deadlifting like a maniac, right? So the minute I do this or this, whatever it is, that big prick comes busting through the door like the Hulk. And here's the honest truth. I don't know if I can put him back, right? So it's never going to be worth the risk for me, never, right? It's not going to be worth the risk for me tonight and today to pick up, because my life is too damn good and I've got love in my life. And I could have never imagined when I was a kid, when I was a 24-year-old kid, that my life would be what it is now. I'll just leave you with one more thing. And I don't mean this to sound condescending. I really don't. And please don't take it that way. But if you're early, less than 6 months, a few months in, a few weeks in, a few days in, you cannot imagine how good your life is going to be. You can't imagine it. And not that you're not creative and clever enough to imagine good stuff. It's just at this point in your life, you haven't seen much of it, right? You haven't experienced much of it, good things, right? You haven't experienced love and genuine compassion and people that would do things for you around that want to see you be successful. The best friends I have in my life are 40-year-old friends that I've gotten from around the tables. It gets better, right? Good news, bad news thing, right? There's always that around the tables. Good news is it does get better. Bad news is just not right away. Um, While I'm on the good news, bad news, one of my favorite ones, and none of this is original. I'm stealing this from other people, so I want to be real clear about that. I'm not that clever. I got a fair memory, so I can remember the really good stuff. One of my favorites is, as long as you're coming around the table and you let us help you and support you, you never have to go back out, right? That's the good news. The bad news is we're your new friends, right? Love that. So my friends, be good to you. Be kind and patient with yourself. Mind how you talk to yourself. It matters, right? You're important and you can do this. Like and subscribe. It helps us keep doing what we're doing here. And if you have a thought on the topic, um, here's the thing. I might not have all the answers, but I know a lot of smart people, right? I'll go get the answers. But if we can help in any way, let us know. Leave a comment. Go to the website and let us know how we can help. So have a great rest of your week, my friends, and be good to you. All my best.